take you on a short journey of what we have done in automation in PDO. Usually we present, then we introduce the team or the team who's responsible for that project, that program. But on this presentation, I will start with the team. Then I will tell you about the story. I will take you through an automation journey where we are at, how we started, hopefully share a number of best practices, our automation framework, which has been designed, redesigned, and we keep on adding and adapting. Value realization, how we calculate value on our automation journey, and what's next in the future. So let me introduce you to our team. 4 individuals who have been working in PDO addressing a number of our automation requirements. Each and every one of them came in between 2018 to 2020, starting with Fatma. Fatma was the first recruitment we had in our team, who started in 2018. She's good with numbers. She started working on finance and has been working in finance. Believe it or not, she every day pushes the exchange rates that we actually use corporately in PDO, having an accurate representation of each and every exchange rate that we actually account for. She's also responsible of more than 600 vendors in communication, where she communicates with them day in, day out, making sure she expedites what we require and makes also sure that what we require reaches on time. She also does period end and a number of finance automations. Moving to Saud. Saud is our engineer and he's working in the engineering function. His responsibility earlier on was on cost estimation. So what he does is, instead of buying a pencil for 100 paisa today and buying it for 1 riyal tomorrow, Saud makes sure that that price range is acceptable. There are different calculations which we follow a specific logic, and we trust Saud's nomination of the price at the end. He's also working on one of the extensive projects which we consider alarm rationalization. Most of engineering projects, we have to declare a specific alarm based if it's a high, medium, or low priority. Any project could have between 10,000 to 20,000 alarms, and within 6 months, each and every of these alarms needs to be addressed accurately. Moving to Najma. Najma is our excellent resource. Why? Because she double hats. She works in exploration and also works in IT. In exploration, she was recruited in 2019, and she started working on calculating central velocities for the north. What central velocity is, it's a very extensive calculations of us rigorously trying to understand what is under the subsurface, what is on subsurface, so under the ground. So for every drilling well we complete, we explore and understand the reality, and we take that reality to minimize whatever assumptions that we hold. Najma was also a very critical resource for our fight during the pandemic. She has been responsible of allowing us to understand the social distancing norm. She was also responsible on implementing compliance in PDO. So any strategic rule within the COVID compliance was made overnight. She would actually make sure the organization complies within just a few days. Lastly is Salama, based on her name, with an H at the end. And Salama is on the safety side. Every morning, there's a critical report we call safety report, which is shared, and it cannot surpass 6 p.m. This report goes around each and every function, and each and every function uses this report to understand what has happened, the incidents, and what we are supposed to be careful of. She is also responsible of integrating and migrating information from 6 different databases to be able to build different dashboards from the millions of kilometers that we have driven without any incidents to the incidents that we keep track very closely. Ladies and gentlemen, I have introduced you to our digital workforce. Fatma, Musa'ad, Najma, and Salama are robots which part and parcel hold employee IDs, part and parcel have accesses depending on their roles, and believe it or not, most of the compliance that we as employees have to go through, they also have to go through. One of the biggest challenges on our compliance was how will we get a robot to change their own password? Well, in PDO we managed to do that. Each and every robot that we have, all 4 of them, given every few months, they change their own password. So, surprisingly, how did we reach here? It was not an overnight step, but it's the ambition that we set to start with. In 2018, we revised and refreshed our strategy on how we are going to approach automation. Rather than the siloed excellence that we actually hold across, where based on a use case and we would actually want to automate, and we've been doing that for quite a while, we sat on a blank page and devised a blueprint on building an ability for the company that could actually work as a digital workforce, and if there is any automation, this digital workforce can address it regardless. In 2018, we started from a market intelligence, trying to learn from different companies, and decided to go ahead with 5 pilots. These 5 pilots were segmented on different complexities. So the top one is, if we succeed, we know this limitation is almost breaking barriers. And the bottom one is like exchange rate, going into different banking web pages and pulling information. We succeeded on some of these pilots. Some of them did not really make light, but we knew exactly where was the line of limitation in technology. We started scaling up immediately, and we started looking at different functions on what we can address. One enabler that actually led us to where we are is focus. If today we look at the market in PDO and what is the potential of automation, there are thousands of opportunities of automation. We did not just want to boil the ocean. It was quite important to start prioritizing what is important for us to automate. We moved into 2019, and where we started a major scale up. This is where, apart from Fatma, we started recruiting Najma and Musa'ad, and depending on the demand. In 2020, we achieved 100% Omanization within the RPA team in Oman. We're working closely with multiple vendors within the local community and also internationally to be able to bring in the best and the latest. 2021, we introduced task capture, where rather than sitting with the business and them telling us a story, task capture was a tool where we would install it to the business machine, and then we will ask them, you know what, do what you are expected to do, and task capture would document each and every process. At the end, we know exactly what value we actually add in if we address the process itself. Alhamdulillah, this year we've crossed over 2 million value generation within the journey itself, and we were awarded 2 awards in the intelligent automation. One of those awards is strictly directed to Najma and her effort in COVID. Yeah. So a lot of time the confusion is when we speak about robots, people expect to actually see a tangible, walking, probably talking machine. While our robots, the whole digital workforce, these are softwares. These are softwares which have these are softwares which have a finite number of hours in a day, which is 24. Within 24, that is the actual close that we can work with them. They don't have 50 hours. They can process faster, but if we wanted to process something at 6 p.m., we will have to wait for 6 p.m. for the bot to enact. Their ability is based on mimicking our interactions with digital systems. So what we look at is, we look at different interactions that we have with software and look at that repetition and replace that with the bots. They're really fast, very easy to develop and deploy. Most of the time it's recording and hardly fail at what the task is given. Lastly, the software bots come into two versions. One is attended and one is unattended. And in PDO, we have both. Unattended bots is where you give them a task, you give them the frequency, and they keep on doing it for as long as that frequency is addressed. And the unattended is what we get value from, because an end-to-end process, sometimes you cannot automate the whole thing. So the unattended would automate 20%, then the robot will email for approval. As soon as they receive an approval from a team member, they'll go back to another 30%, they might email a director for approval, and the whole interaction is enabled. When we introduced Najma for the first time, we didn't really have time to tell the entire workforce in PDO, you know what, Najma will be responsible of emailing you, reminding you of the compliance and all. Based on the pandemic, we took a decision overnight, we'll try to address the whole organization. It was quite interesting, the replies that we used to get back from people. A lot of them never realized that they were communicating with a robot. Our automation framework is based on years of experience. We started based, as we said, can we automate to changing a strategy? The ability of automation will always be there, but our vision would be, can we develop a digital workforce that any automation we should be able to address? We spoke about initially, we do not tackle or boil the ocean. We look at a prioritization and what gives us the best value at the end. We tackle that and push down the list. We have an agile approach, which means rather than waiting for 2 months to have your end-to-end automation, the first 2 weeks, based on agile, will give you a percentage of automation which is already done. So if it's 100%, the first 2 months is 25%, where your initial automation is done while you're waiting for the whole lot to come. That's very early value realization and has been working quite well for us. And we also hold a team which not only we are Omanized, but also encouraging the local community on Omanization. Companies which we are working on our support model, we started where 90% was not Omanized. Today we reached 80% of Omanis within that support model itself. Okay. Benefits of RPA, yeah, there's quite a list of benefits, and I will speak about the benefits, what would probably the best stories we can share. Fatma from finance deals with 600 vendors day in, day out. It's a workload that would need an army to replicate. Fatma deals with them mostly at night, and in the morning starts doing other functional requirements on finance. That ability of being able to work 24/7 is one of the best abilities that we're actually introducing to the organization. Second part is we're starting to understand what is pushing us to the future skills. Adaptation is quite important in PDO, and now we look at ourselves on the RPA Center of Excellence as part of the business of removing the robot from our workforce. And we've been doing that quite successfully. We'll present the values at the end. I'll also want to add, it's not only value, which you see, there's also some things which we tend to be very, very careful. RPA, based on the logic, can really add value, or it can really disrupt what you're trying to do. If you are trying to add efficiency on a value-generated process, RPA could be one very good technology, but at the same time, if you miss out a technique or a logic, you'd have the robot sending an email across the organization which might not stop until the infrastructure team either puts the stop to it. So it's also a very cautious technology that you do not want it to be exposed, and anyone and any person has the ability to be able to rapidly do what they're doing in a larger scale. Yep. So we took a very ingenious approach when it comes to value. When we start addressing any process, we'd ask the business first on how many hours it takes them to actually address the process on a traditional approach. Based on that timeline, some businesses have a day's requirement, some businesses have 10 minutes, an hour, and we consider that our potential. After the automation, we'll look at how much percentage of that process we've managed to automate, and that percentage contributes as to how many hours we can consider as time liberation. We know every hour, based on a specific employee, how much we contribute to their financial payment every month, and we take that value. Every time a robot runs, the robot also accumulates what value they're actually putting into the organization. As of date, 4 robots, we've addressed 44 automated processes in PDO, and we've crossed over 2 million. In equivalence, if we are looking at the digital workforce itself, 4 robots are currently equivalent to 17 FTEs, 17 actual employees. If we were to recruit, the robots are currently addressing that. And we have not maximized the robot's potential. Some of these robots, we've not even reached 25% of what they can actually deliver more. As of date also, we've rapidly decreased the deployment time. Based on Agile, we used to take around 4 to 5 months for every automation. Nowadays, we take 49 days on average from addressing an idea to deploying the automation itself.